Hi, I'm Scott Jensen, former Assembly Speaker.
I'm Chvala, former Senate Majority Leader.
And we're the Insiders. And we've been doing this show by Zoom for like the last year because of the coronavirus crisis. So Chuck, it's been a long year, hasn't it? What have we learned over the course of the last year? And what do you think is going to happen in the months to come?
Well, we've learned that, as we're not surprised about, Americans are remarkably resilient in spite of more than 500,000 deaths and a lot of injury and illness. And we all have stories, of course, from COVID. But I think we've learned that we're resilient, and this has accelerated. Let's look to the future, look to some of the positive things. We've learned that technology can do an amazing amount for us. So people like us are able to continue to do what we're doing, and the other jobs that we do. I know Scott and I are both functioning that way. I think we've also learned that we do sometimes need national responses to crises. And we also need our states to do a good job. And one of the great things moving forward is that Wisconsin is really on the cutting edge. We're one of the best states in terms of getting the number of shots in the arms in relation to the number of shots that are available for it. The Evers administration has done a great job that way. Our local pharmacies, and a variety of different organizations that have provided the shots. I'm over 65, so I am vaccinated. I have had both of my vaccines taken. But I think we do realize that there is, I would like to think that the collective wisdom that we will share going forward is that we do need each other. We are our brother's keeper, and our lives are impacted by the lives of others. And I really think that we have learned some of that. We understand the essential workers, how important they are. We've realized that that definition has to include not just the hospital workers and the doctors who are critical, of course, and our first responders, but also the people who man the grocery stores, the people who deliver the food, or in this case, oftentimes, just like I did today, went and picked up food from someplace. So I would hope that this could be a time that might actually be able to bring us together. I'm disappointed that I think our previous president did not have that attitude. But I'm encouraged by the fact that the current administration, and I think overall, people are trying to be more collectively positive about how we can help each other. And I think that's hopefully the lesson we've learned from this, and that we come away with, and it could make us stronger in the future.
Well, obviously, no one expected this pandemic to come along. A lot of us were caught off, everyone was caught off guard. Lots of people had to learn on the fly how to deal with this, including the scientists. We all, I think to a great extent, put a great deal of faith in them. And, it's a new crisis. And so they struggled themselves as to what the right answers were at different times. They changed their mind about different things as they went along. But in general, I think most people listened to what the scientists were trying to tell us with all this. We made some mistakes, obviously, clearly, all done, I'm sure, with good intentions of trying to protect people. But we decided to shut down businesses based upon whether the government determined they were essential rather than whether or not they could operate safely. And I would hope that if this happens again, that we have learned through this that it's a matter of whether or not the business can operate safely, not whether or not the government thinks the service they provide is essential. I would hope that the first thing we do is protect the vulnerable, the people living in nursing homes, people living in assisted living centers. They've got to be first on the list. They weren't necessarily always the first on the list. In some states, those people were among the most endangered by government actions. I think that, going forward, we've got to find a way to not make this so political. In a great many states, this became a Republican versus Democratic issue. It became one in which there was fighting between the legislature and the governors, the gubernatorial branch in this state and in other states. And that's probably not our best response if something like this happens again. So I'm hoping, like you are, that we have all learned things during the course of this last year, and that we can now go back and deal with some of the other crises that are still going to continue. We may get out of this health crisis soon, but the education crisis is going to last for several years. These kids who lost a year's worth of learning, it's not something we're going to make up with summer school. It's going to take a long time to get those kids back on track. And those business people who lost their businesses, they will be struggling for years to pay those loans back. And, you and I are lucky to keep working because we can do our job through technology like this. But if you're not that kind of worker, if you're not a professional service worker, those people lost their jobs, and they're struggling. They're struggling to pay the bills. And I'm hoping that this summer, that not only does the sun come out, the jobs come back, and people are out back traveling, and folks are out doing the sort of work that may not be this type that you and I do, but supports a lot of families in this state.
Yeah, and I think that you've made a number of good points there, Scott. And one of them that I didn't touch on as directly, and we should, is all of these people who are unemployed and who have had to suffer greatly. And a lot of women who left the workforce. I'm sure there was a lot of need for childcare, but also they in many cases weren't able to work. Their jobs were shut down. So there are a lot of people who don't, like you say, have the technology resources that we have to be able to do what needs to be done. So I think that if I had to say one thing that I think is true, but I think we maybe have different perspectives, is on how this worked politically. I think if we had had a different leader at the national level, this could have been a real healing and bringing together moment. But even now, the state legislature, the Republicans are saying, I'm not sure I want to eliminate that 1 week waiting period. Really? That's really something that we want to do for unemployed people, to unemployed people? Come on, guys, let's bring this together. Let's not try to be saying, well, I'm really more concerned about whether or not somebody's going to be working hard to get back to work. I think everybody in America works hard. And I think we should be more respectful of each other and not try to pull those kinds of games on people. As far as the big picture, I agree with Scott that there are a lot of businesses that will be affected as well. But let's all realize that we're in this together. We really are. And I think that's something, that collective commitment that we had certainly during the Second World War and after that. I hope that we can get that back. And I think we're moving in the right direction. And what I like about some of the things that are coming out nationally from our leadership is that they are saying things that we're all in this together. Let's work on this together. I agree with Scott. We've learned a lot scientifically. Going forward, it's different. But, mistakes, good example of mistake that I don't think is partisan in any way was meat packing plants. Well, yes, they're essential. But the idea that you can have people elbow to elbow in these places, obviously somebody's got to think that through better the next time we go through.
Or here's another one, shutting down the hospitals for, quote, non-essential surgeries. And instead we had people who didn't get a test that they needed for cancer or whatever for months and months, or people who didn't get heart surgery that they needed for a long period of time. Yeah, I think we all learned a great deal. We also learned that even though our society has moved forward in so many ways, it was sad that once again we asked women perhaps to pay the greatest burden. They were the ones who had to give up work first, to stay at home, to take care of someone who was older or someone who was younger. And we keep doing that when we have crises like this in this country, and that's just unfair.
Yeah, I hope we can get together on this, and I hope it will help bring us more together. And I think you can see from the discussion that we've had here today, there are common ground areas where we can get together, and let's try to focus on that.
Now, let's hope it's a long time before we have to learn those lessons again.
Yeah, see you next time.